Next, we have the 10x set. The 10x set is perhaps the most important element to understand regarding the entire 10x methodology, because the 10x set is how we perform all of those 10x exercises that we previously discussed. And if you can recall in the 10x strategies video, a single 10x set, whenever you perform a 10x exercise, we are demonstrating all three of the 5 strategies that make up 10x, which are targeted muscle failure, sequential recruitment, and accentuated negatives that you see in a single 10x exercise. So let's get started. So what is the 10x set? The 10x set is a 1-minute 10x exercise performed at what we call a 12 repetition maximum, that's the intensity, for a total of 12 full range reps. Again, you cannot do a 13th rep, that's what your 12 RM means. Your 12 RM means that you're at your max for that particular exercise. And so you can do 12 full range reps, but you may attempt to do a 13th rep, you may even get a half rep, but you will fail. And we use a 5-second rep cadence. Now remember, this 5-second rep cadence allows us, again, specifically to do a 1-second positive, which is relatively fast or organic. There's no particular manipulation of the positive. But then the negative, where we have at least 3 seconds, which is more than double than the positive. And then when applicable, we do a 1-second pause in the hardest angle of the exercise. So the 5-second rep cadence allows us to do, again, at the right load, allows us to select an exercise where we can target a specific muscle group, and then we can select a load that will allow us to do sequential recruitment, right? From our slow twitch, small muscle fibers, moving all the way through to our medium twitch muscle fibers, our intermediate motor units, all the way to our fast twitch, our large muscle fibers. And we recruit as many fibers as we possibly can, and then we fatigue them, meaning that by the time we get to the 12th rep, which is also 60 seconds, we have produced the most potent adaptive response possible, allowing us to trigger all 3 of the muscle growth triggers. Now, there are 2 adjustments that we can make whenever we select a load that's either too light or that's too heavy. So let's start with what we call under selection. Under selection usually happens when we are learning a new exercise, right? We don't select the load the first time perfectly. We're kind of learning, right? So you can imagine, and also it's almost desirable to select the load or under select, allowing us to kind of learn the exercise. And so under selection happens in 2 environments: when we're learning a new exercise, and sometimes when we're changing an exercise. So let's say I go from doing a push-up, and then I would like to alternate my push-up for a different exercise, like let's say the dip. Now, I may not select the perfect load from the push-up to the dip, because it's a bit of trial and error when you change an exercise. Also, it's trial and error when you first learn a new exercise. So under selection is quite common when we're learning a new exercise, or when we're changing an exercise, or we change exercise equipment. Many times, if you do one exercise in one machine in one country or in one gym, and then you do the exact same exercise on a similar machine, it's not exactly the same, and the weights aren't going to be exactly equal. So you might find that the weight that was perfect on one machine in one gym is not going to be the same. And so then you may experience under selection. Now, when you under select, what you're going to do is continue to go to failure. So this is very, very important. I'm going to show you a video of how I do this, where I select a load that was too light, meaning I can do more than 12 reps easily. But I don't then stop. I don't then, okay, it was too light, so I stop. No, you go until you get to failure. So you know exactly what your max is for that exercise. And so let's say you did 16 exercise, then that load, that weight is what we would call your 16 RM, your 16 repetition maximum. But again, we want to be at your 12 RM. So we have to increase the load. Now the perfect 10x set as I've mentioned before, is where you fail exactly on the 13th rep. Now, why does it say here 14 reps? So not to confuse you. Okay, now as you can imagine, let's say you select the perfect exercise or the perfect load, so exercise difficulty or weight, that allows you to fail at 12. But remember, you're going to get stronger, and then you can do 13. You don't change the weight yet. Then you can get to 14. You also don't change the weight. You stay on 12. You stay on the same load, even if you can do 12 reps, 13 reps, or 14 reps. However, once you can do more than 14 reps, and this is what we call the 2 for 2 rule, which we'll talk about later when we talk about progression. But please keep this in mind. When you can do 14 reps, and you can do 14 reps for 2 workouts in a row, which is what we call the 2 for 2 rule. Then it's time to increase the exercise difficulty or the exercise load, okay? Which corresponds to 60 seconds as the perfect rep. Cannot do a 13th rep, but then we stay on that weight until we can do 13, no problem, same weight. We get to 14 because we get stronger in our next workout, let's say. Then we get to 14, which is 2 reps more than 12, but then we do 2 workouts. We see if we can replicate before we go up in weight, we see if we can replicate that result, where we do 14 reps, we did it once, and then we go into the gym or wherever we are to the next workout where we can do 14 reps again. So we replicate the results. We know it's not a fluke. I talk more about this in the progression chapter. But then that's why I say 12 to 14. So 12 is the perfect range, but you're going to get stronger. You can be able to do 13. Don't increase the load yet. You're going to do 14. Don't increase the load yet. Do 14 twice for 2 workouts in a row. Now it's time to increase the load. Or let's say you select an exercise for the first time and you can do more than 14. Let's say 15, for example, which is what I will demonstrate to you in a video where I do 15 reps, and that's exactly now too light. I can now increase the load. All right, so let's move on to over selection. As the name suggests, we select a load that is too heavy, which means if we fail at 11, we fail at 10, 9, 8, doesn't matter. Anything below 12, we can then adjust the load to make it slightly more, let's say, slightly easier, because now it's too heavy. And when this occurs, we employ what we call the rest pause technique. So the rest pause technique is, imagine this. So you select the load, and now it's too heavy. This is going to happen also whenever you learn a new exercise. You may, again, select a load that's too heavy, and so the only way you know that is to go all the way to failure. You might fail at 8, and so that's too heavy because we want to fail at 12. And so now what you want to do is you have 2 options. Okay, stay with me. You have 2 options. You can do a rest pause technique where you make up the remaining 4 reps. Okay, number 1. Number 2, if this happened in your second circuit, right, then you do the rest pause technique. But if this occurs in your first circuit, meaning in any one of the first 3 exercises, so let's say your very first exercise, your leg press, okay, you select the load where you can only do 8. Now, for that workout, you do a rest pause technique so you can make up the remaining 20 seconds or 4 reps, right? But because it's in your first circuit, chances are that you're not going to get to 12, from 8 to 12 in 2 workouts. So in your next workout, you need to make an adjustment. You make it easier, you make the exercise easier, or you decrease the load, okay? Make it lighter so that you can do exactly roughly 12 reps. However, if, let's say, it's your second circuit, meaning you've done your leg press, you did 12, perfect. Then you did your pull, and then you did your push exercise. Circuit 1 complete. Now you move to your second circuit, which is now you do another lower body exercise. So let's say you do leg press again, okay? Now it is expected that you do what is called an over selection, right? Because you're going on the same weight for the second circuit. Okay, so please listen carefully. In this first circuit, you do a lat pull, let's say a low body exercise, a leg press, for example. If you select 12 reps, good job. Then you probably, same thing for your pull and then your push. But now you're going to do your second circuit, your second round, right? So your fourth exercise, which is your leg press again. Now what you're going to do is you can expect to under select because you're going on the exact same weight. So if on circuit 1 I did 100 kgs, then I did my pull, and then I did my push. Now I'm coming back again for my second circuit. Now I'm on my lat pull, on my leg press again, but this time I'm staying on the same weight. I'm still going to do my second set on exactly 100 kgs. I'm not going to drop the weight so that I can get to 12. Rather, you will probably fail around 8 or 9, and then that's fine. Then you employ the rest pause technique. But if you fail to do 12 in your very first circuit in a fresh state, it's too heavy. So the next workout, you're going to make the load a little bit lighter. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So now let's quickly take a look at an example of under selection. First, starting with the perfect set. I want to show you what the perfect set looks like. Then I'll show you a video of under selection when it's too light. What do we do? Again, we make it heavier the next workout or the second circuit if the exercises are the same. And then I'll show you a video of when we have selected a load that's too heavy and then doing the rest pause technique as a remedy to that, provided that happens in the second circuit of your 10x routine. Now, if we haven't talked about circuits and routines yet, so you're still a little bit confused, don't worry. The circuit chapter and routine chapter will soon follow, and so you can just reference the videos that you are about to watch as often as you need to really, really understand this. Hope that helps.